Juneau, Alaska. It's the capital city of the last frontier and a place steeped in history and natural beauty. Come explore with us as we share our top experiences in Juneau, whether you're a lover of nature, culture, history, or the bizarre. We'll cover a couple local spots for grub, including the best hidden dumpling spot ever. And we'll explore a little bit of Juneau's story while we're at it. Let's begin. If you only have one day in Juneau and need to choose just one thing to do, visit Mendenhall Glacier. This colossal river of ice is 13 miles long and averages 1.5 miles wide. It originates in the Juneau ice field high up in the mountains north of Juneau and ends at Mendenhall Lake, a glacial lake that it itself created. Nothing quite prepares you for the grandeur of a glacier, whether it's your first or your 100th. Like earthquakes and volcanoes, glaciers represent nature at its most powerful. But rather than a show of brute, explosive force, glaciers teach us about the power of slow, steady work. That when given enough time, even ice can take down mountains. Among Alaskan glaciers, Mendenhall is exceptionally accessible. The visitor center provides excellent educational exhibits on the local ecology, as well as the science of glaciers. Here, you can learn how glaciers form, flow, and shape the land. And you can learn about the flora and fauna that call this dynamic landscape home. The visitor center has an excellent view of Mendenhall, though it is sobering to know that in 1935, you could touch the glacier from this exact spot. Mendenhall has receded rapidly in recent years, as this time-lapse shows. For those wishing to get closer to the glacier, this area has a pretty stellar 2-for-1. A nice, easy trail that leads to full-on glacier views and a stunning waterfall. We are here at Mendenhall Glacier, and we are going to take you on the Nugget Falls Trail. Let's get going. Nugget Falls Trail starts from the visitor center and winds for 1 mile through vibrant rainforest on a trail that is wide, level, and accessible. And yes, you heard that correctly. We are in the rainforest. Juneau is located in southeast Alaska, in the heart of the world's largest intact temperate rainforest. Moist winds of the Pacific unload upon this region, fueling rainforests on the coastline and glaciers high up in the mountains. All around us, we see the signs of this water-rich land, from the mossy forest to the many streams that cross our path. So these are called spruce tips. The spruce tree in the spring puts off new growth, and you can actually eat them. There's lots of different things people do with them. There's even a spruce tip IPA that's made here in Alaska. They're sprucey. Yeah, you can actually eat them. The trail ends at Nugget Falls, which is a show in and of itself. Nugget Falls is an astounding 375 feet tall, with an average width of 90 feet. If you can believe it, this is Nugget Falls in its relatively tame form. We are here at the end of May, when the average flow is around 133 cubic feet per second. By July, it will swell to about 426 cubic feet per second. Nugget Falls pours from above, fed by Nugget Creek, a high mountain stream that snakes 9 miles back into the mountains. Just like Mendenhall Glacier, it heads in the Juneau icefield. You can see where the clear waters of Nugget Creek meet the silty waters of the lake. Glaciers grind rock into a fine powder that gives the lake its milky blue color. Nugget Creek carries some of the silt as well, but it is also greatly diluted by snowmelt. While you're out here, keep an eye out for Arctic terns. These impressive little birds have the longest known migration in the animal world. Every year, they fly from the Arctic to Antarctica, always chasing the summer sun from pole to pole. If you are a nature lover, this place cannot be beat. An incredible waterfall set to the backdrop of an even more incredible glacier. We all enjoy the great outdoors in our own way, and this easy trail provides opportunities for everyone, whether you enjoy sketching or balancing rocks. Now, if history is your thing, the AG Mine and Gastineau Mill tour should definitely be on your list. Alaska's history is inextricably linked to the gold rushes of the late 1800s, and Juneau was not left out. In this tour, we get to go inside an old mine shaft and see how the operations actually worked here in Juneau.
So for the drills, when they come out, lot master drilling, and there's 2 types of drills here. This one is called a stoper drill.
Juneau's story is not just tied deeply to gold, the city owes its existence to it. In 1882, prospectors Richard Harris and Joe Juneau found large gold nuggets in Gold Creek, and the seed for a mining town was planted.
Now, some people ask about canaries in the mine. Somebody put a birch cane out front, but there were not canaries in the mine here. That's methane gas with coal mining.
For a brief period of time, this mine and its innovative mill was the top producing gold mining operation in the world. It's fascinating to see some of the equipment still in place and to hear straight from the horse's mouth what it was like to work here.
Again, 1930s technology with this. So I'm going to tell you about wages. So back in this era, 1910, 1920, underground miner made $100 to $120 a month. When the drills came out, a little bit better, $150 a month.
This mine shaft was just one cog in a much larger operation, and we learn all about that here, down at the Gastineau mill site. This is where material was brought out of the mountain and transported to the mill below. This mill was at the cutting edge of its time.
So to give you guys a bit of an idea, the original entrance to the mine was down here in Sheep Creek Valley, about 3.5 miles away. They would take a Baldwin locomotive with 40 10-ton ore cars down the railroad track to something called the coarse ore crusher. So again, you can envision these railroad cars coming down the track. They would break them up into groups of 4. And they would drive them into something called a revolving tipple. And this apparatus would take these cars, flip them upside down, dumping the ore into chutes.
The mill area showcases old and interesting mining equipment, including the first steam engine brought to Alaska. There's even a little main street here to give just a little taste of what an old mining boomtown just might have felt like. And to top it all off, we get to try our hand at panning for gold.
The original pans gold miners used is your pans back over here. That's the original size they used. These are just basically demo pans. Folks, what you want to do is you want to get the material out of your pan. You want to shake your pan so you get that gold to settle to the bottom of the pan. Okay? Now that we've been working a little bit, that you got water in there, folks, take your pan's 45-degree angle to the surface.
This is harder than it looks, and we're really not that good at it, but it is fun.
Last time you probably come across flower gold. Depends what area you're in, too. That symbol is on your left shoulder. That's right, it is me.
And in the end, we come away with a few gold flakes. This definitely won't fill the tank of our home on wheels, but hey, it's still pretty darn cool.
There's your gold.
Woohoo! In all, this tour is fun and educational. If it interests you, there is a link to this exact tour in the video description. Now, in all our travels across the world, this little hole-in-the-wall eatery stands out. It's kind of hidden away, and if you didn't know it was there, you might walk right by, and you would be missing out. Pel'meni only has one thing on the menu, dumplings, and only two choices, beef or potato. Nice and simple. And they are insanely good. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. If you come here, you have to go. It's in the blue building right next to the cruise ships. It's amazing, so good. Truly do not miss Pel'meni. These dumplings are the perfect little bite to enjoy on the cruise ship docks while watching the float planes come and go. And speaking of the cruise dock, strolling Juneau's waterfront is a must-do experience in and of itself. Right where the cruise ship's dock is a great place to start. The public art along this wide thoroughfare is as educational as it is eye-catching. Like this beautiful mural that pays homage to a woman every visitor to Alaska should know about. Elizabeth Peratrovich was instrumental in the passing of Alaska's Anti-Discrimination Act of 1945. Her firm and eloquent testimony is largely credited with tipping the balance and greatly influencing passage of the bill. You will also see a series of totem poles stretched in a path along the waterfront. They are part of the growing Totem Pole Trail, an initiative to bring no fewer than 30 totems to Juneau's waterfront. Carved by master carvers from across the southeast, these extraordinary works of art honor the legacy of Alaska's first peoples and seek to educate visitors on the history and culture of the Tlingit, Tsimshian, and Haida, the three groups that have called the southeast home for thousands of years. Port visits can be expensive, and we love that the wide boardwalk of Juneau's waterfront has plenty to do without having to get caught up in the swirl of shopping. The murals and totem poles have a lot to teach. And spots like the Cornhole Garden are great fun, even if you're not so great at the game. A 1-mile stroll farther down the waterfront takes you to the Whale Project and Taku statue, which honestly cannot be missed. Why? Because chances are, if you are visiting Southeast Alaska, you have seen or will see humpback whales. It's hard to appreciate their size from the water, even if they are right next to your boat. But Taku puts their sheer size into perspective. This is a life-size statue of an average-size 40-foot male humpback. And if you can believe it, that's kind of on the small side. A typical female can reach up to 60 feet and weigh up to 80,000 pounds. The boardwalk on the way to Taku statue is a delightful little stroll. Raised on stilts over the intertidal zone, this walking path is filled with educational plaques and more totems from the Totem Pole Trail. Each totem has a plaque explaining the story conveyed in each pole, which in turn teaches a great deal about the customs and origin stories of the Tsimshian, Haida, and Tlingit. One of the things we learn is that the Tlingit had a summer fishing village here on the Gastineau Channel long before Joe Juno and Richard Harris showed up and found that precious yellow metal up Gold Creek. And speaking of Gold Creek, here it is. The raised boardwalk tucks right up to the very creek where Juno and Harris found large nuggets, kicking off mining and settlement here that would one day grow into this city. The boardwalk has stairs leading down to the beach where you can explore the intertidal zone at low tide. You never know what creatures you might find. Finally, this area is a great spot for watching seabirds in the Gastineau Channel. Chances are you will also spot a bald eagle or two here as well. If time is super short and you want one wow experience in Juneau, ride the Gold Belt Tram. The views from up there are pretty remarkable. The tram starts at the cruise ship dock and rises 1,800 feet up the side of Mount Roberts. That is taller than quite a few iconic buildings from around the world. The tickets are pricey, but at least they serve as an all-day pass. Completed in 1996, the tram has two cars named Raven and Eagle. These represent the two lineages of the Tlingit people. They don't look that big from outside, but each car can actually hold up to 60 passengers. The tram ride itself lasts only about 6 minutes, but if you ride on a clear day, those 6 minutes are pretty spectacular. Down below, massive cruise ships look like toy boats. It's certainly a different perspective up here, and this is just the start. So when you get up to the top, there's a restaurant, there's a gift shop, there's a theater with a movie that you really should watch, and there are also hiking trails, so we're gonna go check them out. So we're gonna try and make it up to Father Brown's Cross at an elevation of 2,050 feet, and then we're gonna come down via the Alpine Loop Trail. So that's what we're gonna shoot for. So my wingspan is about 5 feet, which is less than a Canadian goose.
And my wingspan is roughly 6 feet, which is about the same as a Canada goose. Look at that. I'm ready to fly south. Amazing views. Look at that.
The hike to Father Brown's Cross is only about a half of a mile and totally worth the little trek. About 0.2 miles up the trail are 2 lookout points that are well worth a stop. We keep going because we want just a little bit more of a challenge. It's interesting to see the difference 1,800 feet can make. Down below, Juneau's summer is in full swing, while up here, we still have snow and the ferns are still in fiddlehead form. Here's the cross. I wonder when it fell down. As anticipated, the view from Father Brown's Cross is amazing. If Native Alaskan culture and history is of great interest to you, then a visit to the Sealaska Heritage Center should be at the top of your list. The Institute is the beating heart of advocacy, research, and education within Southeast Alaska. It aims to promote cross-cultural understanding and to cultivate the continued celebration of Native arts, culture, and identity across the Southeast. The Institute has various buildings throughout Juneau. This is the Walter Soboleff Building, located on the corner of Seward Street and Heritage Way. And it has a few enriching gems inside for visitors. First is a traditional clan house front, intricately hand-carved in red cedar by master artist David Boxley. The building also has a small exhibit where you can learn more about the history, art, and cultural practices of the Tsimshian, Haida, and Tlingit. And this pair of artists just happens to be here when a juried art show is in full swing, with pieces from artists across the Southeast. Here we see the distinct form line design of Northwest Coast art, characterized by clean lines, ovoid shapes, and the use of negative space, and of course that distinct color palette dominated by red, black, and turquoise. We also see multiple instances of chilkat weaving, a sophisticated weaving technique of this region. Chilkat is notoriously complicated and time-intensive. It is unique in that curves can be incorporated into the weave. Here at the Sealaska Institute, you can also enter a clan house and learn more about the important role these buildings played and continue to play for the Tlingit, Tsimshian, and Haida. This is a place for quiet contemplation and opening one's mind to learning something new. With all this exploring across Juneau, chances are you're hungry. A prime spot for good food, great views, and a lively atmosphere is the Hangar. Just like the dumpling spot, it is located in the blue building right off the cruise dock. The Hangar pays homage to aviators and the role they played and continue to play in Alaska. On the menu is standard American fare with a healthy dose of Alaskan seafood thrown in there for good measure. The Hangar is right on the water, so you get full-on views of Gastineau Channel, whether you eat outside or in. And the food is pretty darn good. We opt in for jambalaya and the halibut fish and chips. After a long day of exploring Juneau, this meal and this setting hits the spot. Now, there is a place in Juneau where the bizarre, the inspiring, and the fruitful world of horticulture all come together. A 14-minute drive from downtown, Glacier Gardens is a botanical garden with a unique flair. Upside-down trees turned hanging gardens. We have never seen anything like this before. Glacier Gardens is tucked up on a hillside along the Tongass National Forest. This is a great place to come to feel the cool air of the temperate rainforest and maybe even spot some of its critters. Glacier Gardens also has a tour up and into the rainforest on surprisingly powerful little shuttles.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Deb. I'm your driver and guide up the mountain today.
The tour heads straight into the rainforest on a road that twists and winds its way up the mountainside. Every now and then, flower towers, as they are sometimes called, dot the route. The road is steep, winding, and a bit harrowing, and that is half the fun and the adventure of it. At the top is a viewing area with a bird's eye view of downtown Juneau in the distance and the airport just below.
We are not going back the way we came.
The way down the mountain is equally exciting as going up. The road is exhilarating, and we enjoy learning all about the forest ecology as we go.
Coming around this corner on the right is another good example of how shallow the soil is. It's amazing, these trees can grow to be as big and tall as they are, and virtually no soil is solid rock like these ones down here.
In all, this little tour is a great way to glimpse the precious rainforests of Southeast Alaska. Excursions, day trips, and tours aside, the one thing everyone should do in Juneau is explore historic downtown and visit the Capitol. After gold was discovered up Gold Creek, a settlement grew here until Juneau was incorporated as a city in 1900. In 1906, the capital of the Alaskan Territory was moved from Sitka to Juneau, and with this new administrative role, the city grew even further in size. Those streets of young Juneau's commercial center are still here, with 42 buildings from the early years still standing. This has led to an entire section of downtown being listed on the National Register of Historic Places. With that many historic buildings still standing, a walk through historic downtown is a bit like taking a stroll through the past. Another place to brush shoulders with the past is to stop in for a drink at Alaska's oldest operating bar. Imperial Bar was established in 1891 and has remained open ever since. The walls of this place must certainly have some stories to tell. The decor is just good old Alaskan, and the tin stamped ceilings date to 1906. Juneau is a great walking town, and it's well worth it to explore on the way up the hill to the Capitol. We are only here for a few days, but we can sense an energy here. Juneau is giving us this vibe of a vibrant city with a lot going on. As you climb farther up the hill, the quaint, charming buildings of old downtown begin to give way to the more stoic, administrative buildings of government. The state capitol feels like a bit of both. Alaska's Capitol building was completed in 1931, 25 years after the Capitol was moved from Sitka to Juneau. At the time, Alaska was still a territory, so the building was first called the Federal and Territorial Building. It became the Alaska State Capitol 28 years later when Alaska was admitted as the 49th state of the Union. What's interesting is that the governor's mansion was completed well before the Capitol building. Completed in 1913, the governor's mansion is the official residence of Alaska's governor and their family. Not far from the Capitol and Governor's House is the State Office Building, lovingly, or maybe not so lovingly, called the SOB by locals. Just a little up the hill from the Capitol sits another intriguing page of Juneau's history. Many are surprised to learn that this Russian Orthodox church was actually requested by the local Tlingit people. Rewind to the late 1800s, and the locals find their territory suddenly overrun with gold seekers establishing an entire city. With the newcomers come churches, but those churches are not keen to teach the word in the Tlingit language. The Russian Orthodox Church, on the other hand, had been preaching across Alaska in native languages since 1800, and this had led many native peoples to embrace the Orthodox Church. And so here, during the early years of young, burgeoning Juneau, local Tlingit leaders requested a church that would serve them, and this structure was raised in 1894. If you're a little thrown and now super curious about the influence of Russia in Alaska, you should check out episode 29, where we dive into that history. Downtown Juneau is literally built up a mountainside, so it is great for exploring the side streets and raised walkways that crisscross through the area around the capital. In short, no visit to Juneau would be complete without a little urban exploring through this historic and vibrant city. Now, some travel experiences you simply cannot plan for. Here is a little story from our time in Juneau. It's the day we are visiting the Sealaska Institute, and suddenly a dance group begins practicing their repertoire in the Sealaska Plaza. The beat and song reverberates through the streets of downtown, and soon a crowd forms to watch. This is Yees, a multicultural dance group based in Juneau, and they are practicing for two things. First, for celebration, the upcoming biannual gathering of Native peoples from across the Southeast. And second, for an event happening tomorrow. It's National Cancer Survivors Day, and Yees is teaming up with Cancer Connection to raise awareness. It begins with a march through town, down the waterfront, en route to the Taku statue where the two groups will meet. Then the Yees dancers give a performance at the base of Taku statue. It's so beautiful to see the way the community comes together today to celebrate survivors and honor those who have passed. It is a meaningful blending of communities, cultures, and humanity. After all, cancer doesn't discriminate. After the performance, the Juneau Fire Department hosts a barbecue so that everyone, including spectators, can enjoy a meal together. These are the unplanned experiences that arise in travel, and as we all know, sometimes the unplanned stuff ends up being the best. In fact, it's the beauty and spirit of the unplanned that takes center stage in the story that we will share with you next time on Art We There Yet? Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give us a like.
Subscribe to our channel.
Send us a comment below. And for exclusive content and a behind-the-scenes view of the Art We There Yet journey,
Join us on Patreon.
see you over on Patreon.